I accidentally saw my best friend sitting on my husband's lap. Jonas, your stupid wife didn't notice that I swapped our daughter with hers, right? She spoils our daughter every day. But where is my daughter and hers? Why don't you bring her with you? I've been punishing her for a month, and it's getting boring. You won't feel bad, will you? My husband said coldly. Of course not, he replied. I only married Helena for her family's money. The child she had isn't worth anything. Once our daughter inherits her fortune, I'll just kick her out. I wiped away my tears and pretended not to know anything, dedicating myself to raising their daughter. It seemed they thought I was particularly easy to deceive and would never notice anything unusual. Louisa was becoming increasingly bold. Before, she would secretly meet Jonas while I was at work. Now, even when I was at home, she would find all kinds of excuses to show up. Although I knew deep down that every time Louisa came to my house, it was to see her daughter and Jonas, I still did not refuse. Whenever she came over, I warmly welcomed her. Jonas was very satisfied with this arrangement. Whenever he saw Louisa arriving at our house, he couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, he even flirted with her in front of me, sending subtle, suggestive messages. Even Bianca was becoming closer to her. Moreover, he bought a pair of house slippers for her so she could visit anytime. This life continued until Bianca took her college entrance exam. Seeing her ridiculously low test score, Jonas pretended to be angry. How did you score so low on the exam? He asked. Bianca didn't care at all. Our family has money. Why should I work hard to study? Mom can just buy me a degree. Jonas gave me a discreet glance. Seeing that I didn't express an opinion, he continued, no matter how much your mommy loves you, she can't let you do this. It's not easy for her to manage the company alone. You have to make an effort. Otherwise, how can you help her in the future? Bianca agreed. That's right. I'm mommy's only daughter. With so many companies under her name, how could she let me starve? Over the years, Bianca had been spoiled by Louisa and Jonas, becoming arrogant and domineering, with no skills or knowledge. At her level, she wasn't even qualified to intern at my company. But I didn't say it directly. Instead, I said seriously, how can being a general manager be enough? She's my only daughter, and she should inherit everything from me. I've already planned everything. I'll send Bianca abroad for further studies. When she returns, I'll fully entrust the company to her. Hearing this, Louisa's eyes lit up instantly. Jonas and their daughter nodded joyfully, their faces full of smiles. Watching the three of them laughing proudly, I laughed as well. They laughed at me for being too foolish, while I laughed at them for being too naive. During the study abroad application process, I took Bianca to the company every day. I taught her to familiarize herself with the company's operations without reservation. 3 years later, Bianca returned from abroad. The moment Louisa saw her daughter, she couldn't control her emotions. She rushed forward and hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. After expressing their longing for each other, Bianca walked straight to me and said bluntly, Mom, I'm back. When will you let me take over the company? Looking at her impatient expression, I gave a faint smile. Let's go. I've already organized a press conference. Right now, I'll entrust everything to you in front of everyone. The press conference venue was packed. All eyes were on me as I announced that my daughter would take over my position as president of Albuquerque Group. Under the supervision of lawyers and cameras, the equity transfer agreement was signed. I transferred all my assets and company shares to my daughter's name. For a moment, the applause was thunderous. Many people admired the deep bond between us, mother and daughter. However, at that moment, my best friend arrived late, holding Jonas' hand. Under the curious gaze of the crowd, she pulled out a paternity test report and loudly announced, Helena, to tell you the truth, Jonas and I have been in love for a long time and had a daughter at the same time as you. The hospital gave us the wrong baby. Bianca is actually my biological daughter with Jonas. You've raised her for so many years. Now it's time to give her back to me. Hearing this, there was an uproar. Isn't that Louisa Almeida, Mrs. Albuquerque's best friend? She actually had an affair with Mrs. Albuquerque's husband and even had a child with him. The issue is, Louisa's daughter died when she was just a month old. If the hospital did switch the babies, doesn't that mean Helena's real daughter is Louisa's biological child? That's despicable. Not only did she steal someone else's husband, but she also killed her own daughter. Isn't this the end of the world? Moreover, Mrs. Albuquerque just transferred all her fortune and shares to Bianca's name, and now she discovers Bianca isn't her daughter. Is this what a person does? Amidst the accusations, Jonas confidently spoke. In the first half of my life, I was trapped in marriage. As a man, I tried to convince myself to be responsible for it. But I'm human too. On countless difficult nights, I kept asking myself, is this the life I want? Helena comes from a good family. She treats me well. But what I truly love is Luisa. I just want to follow my true love. Is that wrong? Marriage is for happiness, and divorce should be too. Marriage shouldn't be a prison that stops me from pursuing love. I hope you all bless us. Jonas' words seemed heartfelt. A man unhappy in marriage, seeking freedom and love. I didn't bother with him. I looked at Bianca and asked, "What do you think?" Bianca calmly read the equity transfer agreement and said coldly, "Mom, this is the last time I'll call you that. Although you raised me for over 20 years, you're not my biological mother. Blood is thicker than water. I hope you won't stop our family from reuniting." Jonas pulled out a divorce agreement and a bank card, throwing them at me. "Let's divorce now, in front of everyone. This card has $700, which is your compensation for taking care of our daughter and the divorce over the years." Hearing this, everyone at the scene was furious. As expected, people from the same family stick together. Amidst everyone's outrage, I couldn't help but smile. Okay. I signed the divorce agreement under everyone's astonished gaze. Seeing this, Luisa and Jonas were slightly stunned, as if they hadn't expected me to agree so readily. They picked up the documents, checked them carefully, and smiled with relief. As they laughed, I spoke again. "Since you've given me such a big surprise, I also have a big gift for you." Jonas looked confused and asked, "A gift? What kind of gift?" "A big gift." After signing the papers and seeing Jonas and Luisa's smiles, I felt strangely calm. It was as if all the pain I had carried for years had been lifted in that instant. It wasn't resignation, but something different. A certainty that, no matter how much they laughed now, they had no idea what I had in store for them. When they left the event, still celebrating like two infatuated teenagers, I stayed behind in the hall. The people around me tried to console me, some offering help to recover the assets I had transferred to Bianca. I thanked everyone but declined any intervention. I told them I needed time to process everything. They didn't know, but all I needed was silence to put the rest of my plan into action. I went home that night. The house felt bigger, emptier, as if every wall echoed with betrayal and lies. I looked around, seeing the furniture I had once chosen carefully, the family photos on the shelves. Every object seemed to mock me, reminding me of all I had endured while being deceived. I took the photos one by one and put them in a box. I wasn't going to destroy them, not yet. Those memories had their purpose. In the weeks that followed, I acted as if everything was normal. I continued going to the company, even though Bianca wasn't around. She claimed she needed time to understand her new role as the owner of everything. I didn't argue. In fact, I encouraged her. The further she stayed, the better. During this period, I began making small changes to my routine. I sold a few smaller properties that were in my personal name, ones not tied to the company. I discreetly invested the money into something Jonas and Luisa would never suspect. People. I didn't hire expensive lawyers or investigators. I knew their pride would protect them better than any legal document. Instead, I began connecting with old acquaintances, loyal employees, and even people who, like me, had been wronged by their actions. I discovered that Luisa had a history of intrigues long before she entered my life. She had destroyed a marriage before mine, something that had never been publicly mentioned. Jonas, on the other hand, had hidden debts skillfully concealed by using my name and resources. But the most interesting discovery was about Bianca. During the 3 years she spent abroad, she got involved in parties, scandals, and even minor crimes that Jonas had covered up. None of this had come to my attention before because, of course, they had gone to great lengths to maintain appearances. This gave me something valuable: patience. I let weeks turn into months. During this time, Bianca tried to visit the company a few times, but she quickly realized she wasn't capable of handling anything. The employees ignored her or treated her indifferently. She became frustrated, which led her to spend more time partying and less on business. Jonas, on the other hand, grew increasingly confident. He and Luisa decided to move into one of the mansions under Bianca's name, claiming it was the start of their perfect family. I didn't object, not because I agreed, but because I knew every move they made was a step closer to what I wanted. Finally, the opportunity arrived. Bianca organized a huge party at one of the company's properties, claiming it was to attract new investors. The event was a disaster. The guests, important business people I had known for years, left outraged by her lack of organization and careless attitude. When the news reached me, I made sure to call a meeting with the board of directors. The meeting was swift, almost painless. Most of the board had been on my side from the beginning, even after the transfer of shares. They knew Bianca was incapable of leadership. During the meeting, I presented a comprehensive dossier on her actions over the past months, showing how she was putting the company at risk. I didn't need much effort to convince them. They voted unanimously to remove her from active management, leaving her with only a nominal title. Jonas and Louisa, who were present, were visibly irritated but could do nothing. I still had allies in places they didn't expect. After the meeting, Jonas confronted me for the first time in months. He tried to shout at me, accusing me of manipulating everything. I simply looked him in the eye and asked, "Did you think it would be that easy? Did you think I would be destroyed so easily?" He didn't reply. He just left, taking Louisa with him. Now, things are calmer on the surface, but I know it's not over. Bianca is still legally the owner of the shares and remains an important piece in the game I've started to play. Jonas and Louisa, on the other hand, are beginning to realize that the fortune they wanted isn't as simple to control. They have resources, yes, but they're isolated. The world they built on lies is starting to crumble, slowly but steadily. As for me, I wait. I know there is still much to do. I'm not in a hurry. The true flavor of revenge lies in patience. They think they've won, but they're merely savoring the beginning of a game that has barely started. After all, I still hold what matters most: control. And that they'll never realize until it's far too late. After months of careful planning, everything was ready. Jonas, Louisa, and Bianca, each in their arrogance, thought I had given up. They had no idea that while they laughed and reveled in their perfect life, I was meticulously setting the stage for their downfall. I began the execution of my plan with something simple: an anonymous report to financial authorities about Jonas's suspicious transactions. He had been using accounts linked to Bianca's name to embezzle money from the company, believing no one would ever uncover it. These details came from documents I obtained through a former accountant Jonas had fired. The accountant was more than willing to cooperate, especially when I promised to protect his anonymity. Meanwhile, a second report was filed against Louisa. I discovered that, in her attempt to cover up her neglect of my biological daughter, she had falsified hospital documents to hide the abuse. Additionally, medical records showed that my daughter had mysteriously disappeared after being handed over to an orphanage, which was, in reality, a front for child trafficking. This revelation was one of the hardest truths I had to face, but it gave me the motivation I needed to push forward. Bianca, on the other hand, was not my main target, but she became entangled in the chaos due to her own poor choices. The parties and scandals she dismissed as trivial began surfacing in the media. Authorities started investigating her, and despite her claims of being a victim, it became evident that her negligence and lack of leadership had contributed to the financial turmoil in the company. The final blow came during a public event. Jonas and Louisa were attending a charity gala organized by Bianca. They were glowing, acting as though they owned the world, when law enforcement officers arrived and arrested them right in front of everyone. The charges against Jonas included fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement. For Louisa, the accusations were even graver: document forgery, child abuse, and involvement in criminal activities related to the disappearance of my biological daughter. The silence in the room was broken only by the clicking of cameras. The expressions of shock on Jonas and Louisa's faces were priceless. Bianca, who up until that moment believed her perfect family was untouchable, broke down emotionally. She ran to me after the event, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, please forgive me. I was blind. I thought they loved me, but they only used me. I just wanted to belong to a family." For a moment, I hesitated. I remembered all the years I spent raising her, believing she was my daughter. Bianca had betrayed me, rejected me, but as I looked into her eyes, I saw the same little girl who once held my hand in fear on her first day of school. I couldn't hate her. "Bianca," I murmured, "you made mistakes, but you are still my daughter. I raised you, I loved you, and I can't abandon that." She collapsed into my arms, sobbing, as I held her tightly. Yet the moment was tinged with an unbearable sorrow. My biological daughter, the one I never truly got to know, had been a victim of unspeakable crimes. Authorities informed me that the orphanage where she had been sent had closed years ago, and her whereabouts remained unknown. That absence weighed heavily, casting a shadow over any sense of victory. With Jonas and Luisa in prison and Bianca attempting to rebuild her life, I regained control of the company. It wasn't easy, but over time, I restored the board's trust and rebuilt relationships with business partners. The company stabilized, and its reputation was repaired. I decided to establish a foundation in honor of my missing daughter, dedicated to helping at-risk children. It was my way of keeping her memory alive, even without knowing where she was. In the end, I rose above it all. Jonas and Luisa paid for their crimes, and Bianca, despite everything, found redemption by my side. Still, the pain of not having my biological daughter with me will never fully fade. That scar remains, but it also reminds me of the strength I found to fight against those who tried to destroy my life. And as I watch Bianca working beside me, finally maturing, I feel that, in some way, we have rebuilt something. It's not perfect, and it never will be, but it's enough to move forward.